I'd like to call the regular meeting to order. Do I hear an acceptance of the minutes of the March 11, 2026 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Mark, you got monthly operating report summary, April 2026.
As normal, if you have any questions, let me know. The month of March, we averaged almost 5 million gallons at a daily max of 9.1. And as I kind of go through this, remember that when we get high flows, our pounds for the year for nitrogen and everything increase too, because part of the formula is your flow times your concentration times your pounds. So we had 94% removal efficiency for BOD and 98% for suspended solids. We had 82.2% removal for nitrogen, and we were 2.5 pounds under the permit. Last March, we were over by a pound. The 178 is a rolling average for the year, but if you can make it under every month, obviously it's nicer to do 12 out of 12. But to be under when your flows are that high is really, really good. And we put the UVs on this month, and phosphorus is also under permit now for this month. So next month, you're going to see them on the summary report. Our biosolids average 21.5%. Any questions on those yet?
Obviously, you gotta be a chemist and biologist and so if there's anything that you're interested in learning more about or it's pretty technical stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
It's dirty water, basically.
Yeah.
But don't, feel free to stop us at any point.
No, I take the this March being better than last March.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, and really, when you look at the flows, I mean, I don't think you've been in the meetings when I've had it, but I'll have the yearly graphs with the flows and the total pounds. So if we sample on a Monday and it rains and we're doing 10 million gallons on Sunday night, that flow is literally triple our normal flow. So your pounds are going to triple, even if our process is exactly the same, right? Because it's based on loading rates. So you wish the weather would be on certain days, but you can't control it, right? So if we can make it an high flow event, it's even better. For the month of March, Snowberry pump station, pump 2
So,
trips.
excuse me, let me back up a second,
Yep.
Mark. So basically, the nitrogen, one of the most important things that they focus on here at the plant. We're buying credits and, right, and getting,
The state pays us now because we basically were under permit consistently for, this is, I think, the 6th year in a row. So instead of buying them from the state, they buy them from us for other plants that are over their permit. So essentially, if we got the same amount, there was months or years, I think we were paying back in the day over $100,000 in nitrogen credits. So now we get a check for $2,000 to $5,000. It's not as much, but obviously, if you're selling credits, they don't give you the same as if you have to buy them, unfortunately, right? But it's nice because we'll get a check now yearly versus having to pay EPA or DEP. And as Jim said, like nitrogen and phosphorus are our two biggest ones. When we did make the fermentation tank, we used to average probably $75,000 to $80,000 a year on chemical for phosphorus. And there's years that we haven't even run chemical on phosphorus, so that was a cost savings too. So those are probably the two biggest. And then you also have obviously, E. coli, heavy metals, but these are kind of like a snapshot of the important ones.
okay.
The report, Snowberry, we had a pump 2 trip. This is actually scheduled for April. We have a pretty good idea what it is. We cleaned out both check valves, flushed the lines. On the bottom of the wet well, the pumps drop down on rails and it sits, and there's a flange on the discharge side where it pumps up. And there's an O-ring there. We think it's corroded. So when the pump kicks on, the flow is actually spraying out of the discharge area and then it's faulting out. So now that it's warmed up, we're going to be in there next month, bypass it, and we're going to replace it.
So Mark,
Yeah.
how many pumps do we have throughout the system?
17 stations.
17.
So if we add some with MDC or the the West Farm station that is already designed, I mean, we could have upwards of 20, which is a fairly large collection system. Next is probably MDC is probably the biggest in the area.
So those things require a lot of maintenance, a lot
Yeah.
of, you know, they get debris that's inside the thing, and so they're constantly
Yeah, I
repairing.
mean, we've pulled out, touch on that, we've pulled out 2x4s, pieces of curb, jeans, matchbox cars. I don't know how they get in there, but they do. So, I like everybody always asks me like, how hard is the plant to run? Because they go on a tour and they see it and they're like, this is not what we thought. The plant, like once you dial it in, is okay. It's the 170 miles of pump stations and street lines that are the issue. I say 75 to 85% of the time, that's where your problem is.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to touch on, Jim?
No, that's good. And
Okay.
when you, if you think of anything that would be helpful,
To add on.
you
Yeah.
know, just to explain.
And then obviously the stations, so West Farms is the second one, so if you drive down South Road to get there, you probably know some of this already, but that water's not gonna get here gravity, so we have to pump it up, so we pump it from there to Batterson, and then it gets pumped up here, so there's multiple points it has to pump, and then obviously if any of those stations aren't pumping, then the mall has a problem. So same with Yukon and Trump Plaza, with those stations, there's a lot of moving parts. We had a power blip on March 17th. It was weather related. It came out without incident. Batterson, we installed a new backup ATS. That was the one that sits outside. It has a quick connect. So if the actual generator fails, we have a second backup where we can take our towable one out and then plug it in. Because it was outside, the mice chewed up some of the wires and the boards. It was cheaper to buy a new one than to start replacing all the individual pieces. So that's replaced. High Road, we had a low level alarm come in March 24th. The wet well is actually in high level and the OIT screen had failed. So it failed when the wet well was low and then it raised up. We took a new PLC out, basically uploaded it. We were running within 15 minutes. Hydro does about 600 to 1300 gallons a minute, so it does not take long to pop out when it's running. We did identify fix that we're going to do there. So any station that we do now, such as Yukon, Batterson, any of the new ones, if a PLC fails, we have a primary transducer, an ultrasonic transducer, and then floats. But the nice thing about an ultrasonic transducer is even if the primary transducer fails and the PLC fails, that can run independently of both. So when High Road was built in 2012 or 10, we that wasn't put in the program. So we're gonna go back through the program and put that in. So in this situation, once we add that, even if we had a PLC failure, we'd still be running normally, even with a complete power failure of that. Harlan Road Pump Station, we did remove some rags off the float. We were getting a couple blips, so we went out there to check it. Pump station upgrades and collection systems. We received a call for a backup occurring at 381 Colt Highway, probably about a quarter mile down from Five Corners. We found a ton of grease in the manhole and some debris, and it was strange because this is grease you find at a restaurant, and this was outside a homeowner's address. So we traced it back to the end of the line, because if you go up Colt Highway there, it crosses over where they have the old gas station, but it stops on the end of Five Corners there. And then the one by the gas station goes the other way. So the only things past that house were a couple other houses and then Rebel Dog and Five Corners. So we knew the grease was coming from somewhere. We went to Five Corners, and this was the manhole outside the restaurant.
Yeah.
So this is looking towards Rebel Dog. This is towards Five Corners. They have two laterals coming out. Now, I will say they keep up with their fog inspections. The Big Dipper was pretty clean. This might have even predated Five Corners, or it was bypassed at some point, and this is what happened.
Is there baffles in their tank? Are they good?
No, everything was good. So they don't have an outside tank. They just have the Big Dipper system, which is probably half the size of this table, right?
Yeah, it's in the ground, right? Or
No, it's in the restaurant, in the
restaurant?
basement.
Oh, okay.
So I think they used to have one back in the day. And in fact, when we went out at first, you can see this line here, right? So this whole thing was surcharged at some point, because you can see where the water level was. Because the first comment was kind of like, why, I don't think it's gonna come back into the restaurant, and we're like, listen, we're trying to prevent it from causing you money and other people too, because it clearly did surcharge all the way back. But they do keep up with it, they were extremely responsive, like the truck was out there 2 days later cleaning that and their whole private line, so,
Yeah, City of Middletown, so I have a restaurant in Middletown, we
Yeah.
had an issue with the baffles we didn't know about.
yeah,
And there was just for years, like.
It was an
slow-
outside tank, right?
Outside tank, it's just
Yep.
a slow leak for years, to the point where we had a manhole cover like that.
yep,
And the city came out and then the guy found it like 3 manhole covers down the street, and I was like,
yep,
he's, because they saw our reports, we were keeping up on everything, and the
Yeah.
report we were getting from the guys is everything was fine, but they didn't tell us about this issue. They were really cool, and they were like, we actually have the need to do some emergency
Yeah.
work down here anyway. They just sucked everything out for us, but it was a big
Similar,
problem.
right?
Yeah.
The owner was excellent. He again, a lot of people don't understand until they see something like this, right? Because it was like, oh, we have the quarterly reports, the Big Dipper is not bad, so we're good. And then you go outside and you pop that, and it's how did this get to this point, right? So we kind of went through the whole system, showed them they had it cleaned. We cleaned up to the curb. We hesitate with our truck sometimes because we go up to 3,000 psi, and if we go too close to a restaurant or house, we can literally blow the toilets out in the restaurant. So after a couple of times of that, we're like, we'll try as a courtesy, but we don't like to create two problems out of one. So this is clean, everything's fixed, and we just had him basically check this now biannually or semi-annually, and then just do more interior Big Dipper cleanings.
Now, was there a history of fog problem?
So to be honest, Five Corners when I started, don't know what was there. I remember doing the inspection of the Big Dipper when we went out, but that was 6 or 7 because I think they opened like 6 years ago, and I don't remember what was there before.
God knows what they were doing to maintain that.
And that's the thing. So they could have put in the Big Dipper with the best intentions, and it probably meets the flow and the grease demands. But if those lines were clogged from 2012,
So
It was closed for several years.
Well,
and that could have just sat there.
it's
for that
been nothing but
time, too.
It
restaurants
was
for the
restaurants,
last,
yeah.
The people that were there
for the last 50 years.
I don't know, they didn't put a lot of money back into the space before it became what it is
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was always just the same.
Because I know when they put in the Big Dipper and we inspected it, it was all new PVC, and a lot of it was rerouted in the basement too. So that part was definitely all new. But
What exactly is a Big Dipper?
a Big Dipper is just a grease trap in the basement. So it floats, it catches it, there's a little wheel that spins, and then it keeps it so it doesn't go in the collection system. If you have an extreme amount of grease, you might have an exterior tank like you were talking about a lot. And in fact, even looking at the as-bills, when we popped that, we thought maybe there was an exterior tank, and the as-bills were wrong because of how much grease there was. But it turned out to be just the manhole. But they were completely understanding, and I have no issues with them moving forward. I think they're gonna be fine. We assisted Highway in cleaning the drains in the garage and on Farmington Ridge. Continue to install floats. We just proactively replace them. Fog inspections were completed at Butchers and Bakers, George's Pizza, Discover Village, and Farmington Gardens and Riverbend. So we do go through the whole list probably every 2 years, depending how busy we are. We had meetings with Holzner Construction for the Yukon pump station upgrade. We're supposed to begin next week. It's pushed back a little bit because the discharge piping, I think was 4 weeks behind schedule, so we're just waiting on that. But the PLC, the VFDs, everything's at the station. And we're basically ready to go whenever we get the pipes in. Repairs and maintenance at the plant. We ran the effluent pumps at the beginning of March, obviously, because we're gonna get, oh, go ahead. Because we're gonna get all the flow, so we do it preemptively quarterly. March 2nd, we replaced the fuse in primary mixer 1. This is part of the 3 mixers in the fermentation tank. NIC was on site March 3rd to troubleshoot a communication fault in the headworks panel. And which was also related to one of the power boosts we had. We had forklift certification training on the 4th. Replaced the macerator cutter headers and flipped the plate. All this is basically for the dewatering units. It's for a grinder that basically chops up everything that goes in there, so you don't have any pieces get stuck in anything. March 11th, we received annual OSHA training in the highway garage. March 20th, maintenance and electrician diagnosed a fault on the anoxic mixer, it was just a loose wire. This in turn caused a high temp alarm, and we secured it and it ran without incident. And the 23rd, we have a level central control and the primary holding tank failed. And that was just bypassed and run directly to SCADA. When the plant was built, there was 2 digital display screens. Basically on the field side, on the back of the tanks. We don't need them, so instead of replacing it for $1,000, we just took the 4 to 20 signal and ran it back to SCADA, so now we get it back on the plant and refine. Let's see. If we're under by 2.5 pounds, that should be it for this. And for the sewer lateral report, just 2 sewer connections paid. And that's it for Downing Court and Harding Way. Any questions on anything?
Okay. This is probably one of the break our record here of short meetings here, but so. Next item here is any other business. Unfinished business. No comment from anybody on our
Budget?
budget?
No.
No. You have anything to talk
That box,
about?
I don't think so.
No,
Did okay.
that's good. Okay, if I had no other business, then I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. So vote.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.